Ah, fabulous. Thank you so much, Ray. That was very nice of you to introduce me. And Scott, that was fabulous. Really great presentation. Thank you for that. And I think that you'll find as we start talking about my little piece here about automation, that it actually is going to tie into a lot of the points that Scott made. You'd think we planned it in advance. I guess to a certain extent we did. So the basic idea is around automation. You know, we talk about it a lot. It's become a huge focus in market research. And one of the challenges, unfortunately, is I don't think oftentimes we tend to forget about it. Even though we talk about it all the time, we forget about it. We don't implement it where it can be, and we're not leveraging it to the fullest. And not only that, you know, there are opportunities right now for automation, but they're only getting bigger and bigger. And as we move into the future, more and more automation opportunities are opening up. And the benefits are pretty clear. I mean, from your perspective, you can handle higher volume, you can improve your consistency. There's just a lot of great stuff you can do. And, you know, tying back to what Scott was saying before, one of the beauties of automation as well is that participant experience, that, you know, a customer experience where people start to be able to get what they want out of the research, and even, you know, offering their advice and their opinion on whatever topic you're researching, giving them an automated way to do it really helps to make it a lot more streamlined and a lot easier. And you'll see that as we go through some of the solutions. Another interesting thing that Scott brought up before, I think it was in the Q&A section, he was talking about scalability. Well, you know, what's more scalable than automating the things that just don't need to be quite as complicated as they often are? So I think this is a huge opportunity, not only now, but obviously into the future. So when we look at the entire market research process, and this is obviously, you know, this is kind of dumbed down a little bit, simplified. I'm sure you're looking at it going, well, you know, there's a lot more in this. And of course there is. But, you know, when we look at this sort of simplified research process, we can see all different opportunities start to emerge, especially as we start to look into sort of grouping these into more generic areas. So putting, you know, defining the problem and planning the research, put that together with, you know, setting up your sample and, you know, figuring out your survey design, then data collection and analysis and reporting. When we broaden these categories, we can start to see some pretty interesting areas of potential automation. And many of these areas of automation you see in this last blue box at the bottom, you know this. Maybe you're probably doing some of this already, but you can see from the very high level research process to the very bottom of the page here where we're talking about the various areas that can be automated, there's a lot of stuff that can be automated, right? So again, you might be doing a lot of this stuff, so we certainly aren't going to spend time talking about all this, but there are areas that are now emerging as very interesting areas to improve automation that we may not be leveraging today. And again, this isn't just improving automation for the sake of improving automation. This is the sake of improving your business, improving your operations, improving your analysis, improving your customer experience, as Scott was saying before, improving your scalability. So let's take a couple minutes just to look at some areas that are starting to emerge as interesting trends, and then we're going to move next into what's coming after that. So a couple of really great areas that I personally love is the ability to launch surveys in kind of a different way. Instead of relying on the typical, you know, telephone call if you've got like a caddy operation going, or stopping people in the mall, or you know, sending out an email for survey collection. There are ways, of course, to automate that process as well. Now, of course, you know, sending an email is pretty automated to a certain extent, but what if you could create a survey and just have it deploy at the right time? How fabulous would that be? Well, there are opportunities for that. You can create surveys that are then automatically deployed according to your panelists' location, where they happen to be within a store, depending on what's necessary. So the technologies that are being used for this are obviously GPS. That's probably pretty obvious. The other is Beacon, which is something that I think we're seeing more and more of in recent days, and definitely offers huge opportunities for how we can conduct research. Now, the differences between these, when we're looking at GPS, we're talking about outdoors. We're talking about your typical GPS, like your Google Maps or whatever you're using. So great for outdoors, entrance and exit surveys. On the Beacon side, this is much more precise. These are for inside a store. If you want to like figure out somebody's path to purchase, how they're moving through a store, you can actually see how they're moving from display to the register and actually track all that information. Now, these are starting to be used. We're starting to see some movement in this. Wanted to give you a couple of quick little case studies on the GPS side. We're seeing actually one research firm that we Confirm It are working with now is actually using this for a brand new offering. They never did this before, but because this opened up such an opportunity to them, they started offering competitive intelligence research to one of their customers. And it's something now that they're trying to productize and start to really push out to a larger audience. But what they do is they're using the GPS location to actually trigger a survey when a panelist approaches a competing store's location. So it's a really fabulous application that created a whole new area for them, a whole new business model, if you will. On the Beacon side, we're seeing this increasingly used in mystery shopping. It kind of eliminates a lot of problems on the mystery shopping side, you know, not knowing necessarily whether the mystery shopper is actually going to the right display or going at all. You know, there can be some challenges there. So when you have this, it's triggering the survey. You've got proof that they were where they said they were. And of course, the typical survey stuff starts to follow. So there's some really great opportunities in automating surveys. Now, beyond that, of course, it doesn't stop with just collecting that basic survey data. You know, we always want to give panelists an opportunity, or respondents in general, an opportunity to be able to speak their mind. And text is a great thing. But now, you know, historically in research, we tend to, if we are taking these verbatim comments and allowing people to speak their own mind, a lot of times we've got a very manual process around sort of figuring out what they're saying, what is the sentiment, how are we going to categorize that. It's all being coded in a very manual way. But text analytics is a thing. It's a great way to automate such an important process, to get people to open up and tell you more about what they want and what they're seeing and what their experience is. So a really great opportunity that is, I think, really starting to grow in market research more and more now, but still not really being used to its fullest. And one of the main challenges that we hear all the time from researchers is, well, you know, because it's a mixed bag of text, time and again, you end up getting people who are saying, yeah, was great. And that's the text, was great. Well, that's not enough to actually, it's, you know, how am I going to categorize that? What am I going to do with that? What's, you know, maybe I can understand it wasn't bad, but there's no real beef. There's no meat to it. So, you know, it's a mixed bag on whether the text is actually going to prove any value, but there's an automated method for that as well. You'll see this is specifically something that Confirm It's doing, but we also see this in other organizations as well that are offering research technology, providing the ability to kind of prompt the respondent to say more. And this, the way we've done it here is that we're actually doing it in two ways. We have this sort of status bar that's measuring from a quantitative perspective, trying to figure out if they've typed enough letters. But at the bottom, you've got these follow-up questions that are being prompted by keywords within the text that the respondent is providing. You're getting these prompts that are saying, hey, well, can you tell me more? Tell us what was the item you bought today? Who helped you in the staff? So it's a great way to kind of beef up that text and learn a little bit more and eliminate that challenge that we consistently have that makes a larger text analytics solution, that piece of automation, you know, of questionable value. So great opportunities here. But now we've spent the first few minutes talking about the opening, the start of the research process. What about later? Well, there's so much you can do later as well. From a reporting and analysis perspective, a lot of analysis can be automated to the point where we look at a situation where there is a single click of a button to run an analysis. So the most common analysis that you're running, the analysis that you particularly need for various situations and the type of research you're doing, can be automated to a point where it's a single click. And producing then just beautiful reports, little widgets or whatever the case, that are easily visualized, easily looked at, and easily understood by the people that you're providing your research to. So yet again, a tremendous opportunity in automating or looking to automate the pieces of analysis that you're doing on a regular basis. But this can all go one step further. When we start to look at, creating these visualized reports, you're actually setting the stage for being able to provide these reports, these visualized, easily understood reports or data points back to your clients. And a great way to do that is to automate it. And that's another area that we're seeing some interesting trends in dashboard design. Now with dashboards, historically we seem to have, in many cases, gotten stuck in PowerPoint. We put the PowerPoint together and then we take it to our client, we present it to them, here are your research findings, yay. But the problem is that data is static. That data is dead the minute you print it out. The minute you present it, it's already old. But when we're talking about a situation where we can actually push the analysis and the type of visualized reports that we may want out to our clients through a real-time automated portal or dashboard, you can automate that whole delivery. Stay in contact with your customers constantly, provide them the information they want in real time. So it starts to really open up some fabulous doors. So with that, what's next? None of this, there's a lot of great stuff in here, but where are we going from here? We've got all these little components here and there that we've talked about now, but what else? What else can we do? Well, what we're seeing an increasing trend in now, and where I definitely think that we are going to see some dramatic growth, is full self-serve automated research. And this is a pretty big deal. And I know a lot of people might have taken a gasp right then. Full automated self-serve research, oh no. But you know what, we're seeing it already. If you think about how many of your clients are already out doing their own voice of the customer thing. They're out doing little ad hoc research using small platforms here and there to find out little things they need. We're seeing it. People are already demanding it. And I think that the research firms that start to understand that this is the wave of the future are the ones who are going to be in a better position to leverage that wave. So given, we want to be very cautious that we're doing the right thing, but understanding that this is a demand, we need to be sure that we're going to do it. And there are benefits. Faster research, more opportunities to broaden and grow your business. And of course, then you can not just, dump all the research in the hands of your customers, but perhaps even consider sort of a hybridized kind of research where you're providing something that they can get started with, but holding a little off to yourself. So there's a lot of business model opportunities that can be pulled out of the idea of self-serve research, even if it is scary. We have one customer that we've been working with for a while, Delvinia, who some of you may be familiar with. They have this great product called Methodify, which I wanted to spotlight because I think it's absolutely fabulous. And this is a self-serve research. We have another customer in Asia that's actually doing this as well. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't remember their name right now, so we'll just focus on one at a time, Methodify. What they've done here is they've sort of pre-packaged their research. So you go in as a customer, they created a user interface on top of their research platform, and the customer, the client, can then go in, choose what they're trying to accomplish, go in and start their research process. And because everything on this user interface that they've created that you see here on the screen, because everything is connected on the back end to the research platform, happens to be Confirm It, when they click all the buttons they need to click, it launches a research process that's almost hands-off for Delvinia. And in the end, it even generates its dashboards or portals that people can log into and go pull their information, but then opens up the opportunity for Delvinia to be the one sitting in the background saying, okay, but we're ready to take this to the next level for you. You did the self-serve, you did the high level, let's go on and see what's next. So just tremendous, tremendous opportunity coming for something like this by configuring this type of self-serve automated platform. And like I said, you're meeting the market needs, you're giving people what they actually want, at the same time as positioning yourself in a great way to not be caught off guard as the market starts to more increasingly move in this direction. And as you see here, the benefits are pretty obvious. There is an opportunity here to save time, cost, but this is truly, truly a competitive advantage if we're able to research, or if we're able to leverage something in research that may be a little bit scary at times. So with that, I think it's my turn to take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Holly. That was great.
Thank you.
Let's just go to the Q&A page and go to the questions. The first one that we've got is, to what extent can we automate creativity? So I'm sure we can't automate everything, but as you showed, we can certainly automate some of it. So how far do you think we can go with automating creativity?
Well, I think I kind of feel like that's a bit of a trick question, because I don't think you can ever automate creativity. You know, we have tremendous movements in AI and robotics and so on and so forth, but it's never going to replace creativity. And, you know, the automation that we've seen here today and whatever else you can expand on to, you know, take it to the next level is always going to be started from the human brain. So, you know, you can make those gorgeous dashboards that I showed. It was so creative, so pretty, so colorful, but a human still started it. We're never going to fully automate creativity. But the things that are repetitive, I dare say redundant, that can be automated. You know, we're never going to 100% automate everything, but the things that we don't need to be wasting our time on so we can focus on the creative ventures. That's what we need to be focusing on, getting rid of that redundancy, getting rid of that repetitive business, and starting to move into an area where we can really be creative and expand on what computers can't do.
Super. Now, as you mentioned earlier on, there was quite a lot of overlap between what you're talking about and what Scott was talking about. And another one of those similarities is you've both got a lot of clients who are not market researchers. Mm-hmm. What do you think the market researchers can learn from the non-market researchers who are using these sorts of tools?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think there's a lot that both can learn from each other. For the market researchers, what they can learn from a non-market researcher. All right, I'm gonna pull kind of what Scott pulled before and say something that may be bordering on not politically correct. Sometimes there is a good enough. And I think in market research, market researchers in general tend to be very methodical, very accurate, and that is fabulous. That is not a thing we want to go away. But at the same time, in many cases, businesses, and I say this from the perspective of an MBA, I am an MBA, and you know, there's another way to look at this. Sometimes we need dirty and fast. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I think that's definitely something. And you know, when we get into this automation thing, that's why we're seeing this trend moving toward automation. It starts to merge together the understanding that sometimes we need fast and dirty, with the fact that as a researcher, we can still, to a certain extent, control the methodology and make sure that we're using the right, you know, statistics and so on and so forth. But it can be fast and dirty, and that's definitely something that I see businesses want, and that's why businesses are coming directly to Scott's business and to my business, because they are at times able to just do it quick and dirty, and that's what they need, because the market is demanding you have information and change yesterday. There's no time for absolutes in business.
Super. I've got time for one more question, so here it is. Automation is going to change the job roles for lots of people. So what would you recommend if you're a researcher 5 years into your career? What would be good things to focus on?
Well, again, I'm going to take it back to the very first question about creativity. Creativity is never, ever, 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 ever going away, and AI is never going to replace it. The human mind cannot be duplicated. So areas where there is an opportunity to become more creative, and that can take the form of having a better understanding of business, understanding what the business trends and evolutions are, and then sort of tying that up with how that can evolve into something more creative, and listening to what the markets are demanding. So markets are demanding easier to understand information, which now seems to be taking us in a direction of greater visualization. So there's a huge opportunity in developing out that kind of creative aspect as well, depending on, you know, your skill set. Some people aren't good at you know, drawing and artistic stuff, but I think any of those creative areas, whether you're being creative in new and interesting applications in business, or greater design capabilities, or understanding how to make things prettier, I think there's great opportunities there. Anything that's going to allow us to be more creative and really start to help the automation to go in a new direction beyond what we've even figured out here at this point, I think is going to be increasingly important.
Super, thank you so much, and thank you for answering all of the questions. It's been an absolute delight to have you with us.
Thank you.